Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to another Mixed Media Mayhem, and that is every Friday of the month, and we use a different recipe each day, and this is today's recipe: a stencil, the color green, and watercolors. The last Friday of the month we do a scrap lift, and everyone is welcome to join there, so you just need to go over to the Facebook group and join that, and the inspiration for the last Friday of the month will be posted so that you can play along if you like. So I started out with this cut file. It is, I believe it's called Open Leaves or something to that effect, from Paper Issues. I'll put a link to it in my description box down below for you so that you can find it if you would like. I am documenting some cherry picking, and so I just have some photos of the cherries on the tree and the cherries in a bowl. It is something that I really love. Not necessarily the picking. The picking's fun too, especially when you take little kids. But I love cherries. I think they are so good, and it's unfortunate they're only in season for a short while, but I do enjoy them. So I have this watercolor paper, and it is 12 by 12 from, I believe, Fluid is the name of it. I'll put a link for that down below as well. I'm just tracing the cut file onto the watercolor paper, and then I'm going to watercolor in the leaves and back the cut file. And this layout is probably one of the quickest layouts to put together. The cut file and the watercolor really do, I would say, 90% of the work for you. So I am just, like I said, tracing it. I'm going around the outside of the cut file, and I will cut it a little bit smaller because I don't want any of those lines to show. But I definitely want to watercolor it. Now, I could have watercolored it before I cut it, but in this case I decided to just go ahead and cut it. There were a couple of leaves that are kind of in a little bunch, and it had a little center section that is cut out, so I'm just doing that with my blade. It's called a slice. And it's like a ceramic blade. It works really, really well, except for the blade only sticks out a tiny bit, so sometimes it's a little hard to tell where you're cutting. But other than that, I do recommend it. I'm using my Gonzai Tombi watercolors, and I'm not even sure I'm saying that right. I believe they're from Kuretake. And I'm just using a couple of the greens and making it so it's darker on one end and lighter on the other end of the leaf so that it has some depth and some contrast. One of those greens is a little bit more yellow than the other, and so I like that definition between one end of the leaf and the other. So, leaves in nature are never a flat one tone of green. So, why would they be just a flat one tone of green on my layout? So I thought this was a really good way to do it. If you're interested in or curious about the brushes that I'm using, those, I just picked those up at Joann's. I've had them for a long time. They're from Royal and Langnickel. They're called Menta watercolor pens, and they're made with synthetic squirrel. So, not a real squirrel, a fake squirrel. But I really like them. They come in multiple sizes. I think they sell them open stock or individually, and then they sell them in a pack. I have a pack, and then I added one other size of a round brush that I like. So, yeah, I've got a couple of that I really like using that didn't come in the set. So, that's what I picked up. I don't know if I can find a link for them down below, but if I can, I will put it down below as well. So then I'm just going to go ahead and adhere the leaves down on top of the watercolored piece. The one nice thing about using watercolor paper for this, because I really could have used any paper, but the watercolor paper doesn't curl up like a piece of cardstock would. So, and I also did not use a ton of water. It's not like I pooled it on there. I just, enough to get the pigment on there and to blend it in. And the nice thing about leaves is you don't have to be really exact as to where your what area is darker versus lighter, because in nature, you know, depending on where your tree is situated, they're all different. It's not like I have to worry about, you know, in a still life or something, you've got to worry about your shadows and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have to do that. So I did play around with the idea of using some shadows here. And so I pulled out some watercolor pencils and thought I might do like a gray shadow underneath. But I didn't really like the way that it looked. I felt like it just made it look dirty. So you see me here just playing with the idea of it. And yeah, it wasn't my favorite look. So I'm going to scratch that idea pretty quickly. The watercolor pencils that I'm using are Prismacolor, I believe. And they work great. I just didn't like the gray. So I'm going to switch out, and I'm going to just pull out my green blending brush and use the ink that's on my blending brush. So it didn't look horrible, but it wasn't my favorite. So grabbed a different sheet of paper. Don't worry, that one that has the gray on it will get used. I'm actually going to use it, the flip side of it, so it's not a big deal. And so here I am. I'm just testing out the green to see if I like it before I waste another sheet of paper. And I do like it. I don't know what color of ink is actually on that green brush, because it's just, I did not dip it into anything. It's just the leftover ink that was on it. So it's kind of more of a yellow green versus a dark green. And that made me happy. It kind of brightens up the layout a little bit. And so I thought that was a good match for going underneath those leaves. So I'm just trying to fill in the blank area between those three leaves that create a triangle in the corner there. And then one of our items was a stencil. So I have this stencil that has cherries on it. And instead of using red, I decided to use green. It's actually the cherries hanging on the little stems. And I'm just doing tone on tone here and keeping it really simple. And I really like the way that it comes out. I don't want them all over the page. I just want them kind of peeking out like a nod to cherries, not, you know, in your face, this is a cherry layout. Even though the photos are cherries, so you're going to get that in your face cherry layout or look. Now, if you're wondering why my watercolor paper is colored on the flip side, it's actually the outside piece that, like the back side of it, it was the cover of it, but it is actually watercolor paper on the flip side. So I just used that. And since it's not like I needed a whole sheet of it, I wasn't using it like, you know, to create a beautiful piece of artwork or anything. I was like, I'm just going to use this, use it up, get it out of my stash and put it to good use. So nothing goes to waste. So my title is going to be Cherry Picking and Eating, because while the cherry picking is fun, I really enjoy eating cherries. And my favorite are the Rainier cherries, the ones that are kind of like that yellow and yellow-red mix. But you know, Bings and whatever other kind there are, they're all good. These, I can't remember what they are called. We picked two different kinds of cherries on this particular day, and I cannot remember the name of them. But they weren't Bing or Rainiers. So I'm just using these little white foam alphas from Paige Evans to do the rest of the title where it says Picking and Eating. And I am going to use a green Sharpie over the top of them to make that part of the title stand out a bit. While I work on that, I will remind you that this hop happens every Friday, like I mentioned earlier. And the links to the other people that are playing along will be down below in my description box. So you can go and check out what they did with this same recipe that I am using today. So again, it was watercolor, stencil, and the color green. So I've got all three of those on this layout already at this point. So again, check out their links and see what they did. And it's interesting that we're doing it this way because everybody's layouts look completely different, whereas in the past they have looked more or very similar anyway. And so I kind of like this, that it's going in a different direction here. I did pop up my photos onto some foam tape, and I thought this was a really good way to present these pictures because I have one in landscape and one in portrait, and having the leaves kind of surround the outside, it feels like it creates a nice border to hold everything in. And then I'm going to do my journaling in that blank white space above the right hand photo. I did want a green border all the way around this layout, and so this is the piece of paper that had the gray on it that I tested, and it also had the green that I tested. And so what I did is I just took the same green pen that I went over the foam letters in, and I ran it down the edges of the backside of that same white paper that I did all that testing on. So this white paper did not go to waste. The only thing I didn't do was I didn't account for the branding strip, so I'm going to have to trim that down and go over the edge again with green, because I did not think about the fact that it actually has the branding strip on. I just don't see it because it's on the other side. So you're going to see that it was a little bit big, and I had to trim it down and redo it. So I do have a strip of the watercolor paper that I cut off underneath so that I'm not putting ink all over my my desk, although it would clean up with some alcohol really easily, but that just made the cleanup go faster, and that little watercolor strip was just out of my trash can anyway. And then I'm just using my liquid Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to adhere everything down. I don't know quite what I will do with the rest of the leaves that I cut out of the center. They'll probably just go back into my binder of cut files, because I'm sure they could be used elsewhere, and I don't really want to just throw them away and waste them. If it was like just one or two, I might, but since it's the whole center, I decided to go ahead and hold on to those for now. So I'm just using my Muji pen to do my journaling, and that is it, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video today. If you have questions or comments, just leave those down below. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time, and I will be back again with another video very soon. I don't know if it's tomorrow or not. I'm still fighting with the cough and my voice, so I'll be back as soon as I can. See you then. Bye-bye.